In today's video, I'm going to share with you this small stack of comic books that I picked up during 2 trips to a store called Gamerz Island. And there's just a really cool mix of books in this stack, so I definitely think you should check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name's Chris, and this is Northgarden Comics. I've got a back issue haul of comics that I'm going to share with you today. These are all books that come from a store called Gamerz Island. They're located in Hastings, Minnesota, and I'll put links to that store information down below in the description in case you're in the area and you want to check them out. But the books that I'm going to show you come from actually 2 different trips to the store. And the trigger for going to the store on these particular occasions was that the owner posted online that he bought a collection and had something like 3,000 new comics to put out for sale, and that a lot of those were going to wind up in the dollar bins. And just to give you a little bit more context of how he sells comics at this store, Gamerz Island is primarily, I'd say, a video game and console type of a store. So used things, go all the way back to like early gaming systems to more current things and tons of different games. They got a bunch of cards like Pokemon, Magic, and things like that. And then they do have some comic books, but it's not the bulk of their inventory. But the comics that they do have are all back issues, and most of them are dollar books. I'd say it's probably 12 to 15 long boxes equivalent of back issues that are just randomly assorted, not alphabetized. Some are bagged and boarded, some are just raw, so a real mix of things. But that's the bulk of his inventory. And then he does have a couple short boxes that he keeps on the counter with the pricier type of keys. But most of the books are dollar books, and that's what I was there for, especially since he had this new inventory. And the first time I went, I came away with just a handful of books because they were still processing that collection. And then 2-3 weeks later, I went back for a second trip because they had finished processing more of that collection. I could see all of it, but they hadn't officially priced everything. So those are the books I'm going to show you today. So let's go ahead and dive into it. The first book here is one of my favorite pickups from both trips. This is Transformers number 9. This is the title that got me into comic books to begin with, back in the late 80s. My very first comic book was Transformers number 8, which was the first appearance of the Dinobots. It was given to me as a gift from my mom. She got it, I think, at a garage sale, so I got it used. And then my own first comic book that I purchased for myself was Transformers 35. And then, the rest is history, as they say. And these early issues of Transformers for me are all ones that I got through various sources and in various levels of condition. And so when I can go back and find upgraded versions of some of those early issues, I love to find them, especially when they're in the dollar bins. You never see early Transformers in the dollar bins. So really happy to score this issue number 9. But there's a couple things I want to point out about this that are improvements over my existing copy, and they're things that I learned kind of along the way. I'm going to show you my original Transformers number 9. That's this one right here. And you can see, let me actually take it out of the bag and board here to show you a couple things. First of all, you can see the condition I'm talking about. You can see there's tape on both the staples, and that is not from me. It was like that when I got it. So definitely loved and read even before it came into my collection. This is the first appearance of this character Circuit Breaker in issue number 9. And I do love that the pages have maintained a nice whiteness to them even after all these years. But something I learned only relatively recently is that my original copy is apparently the second printing. The early issues of Transformers had second printings to them, and I always thought this was a first printing, but I wanted to point out how I learned that this was a second printing. Shout out to the folks at CLZ and having more and more variants available in their database, because that's one of the visual ways that I was able to see from a cover perspective that my copy was a second printing. And I guess maybe I'll point that out first. If you notice, both of these are direct edition copies, which look the same with the SpiderMan logo down here. But if you look up top in the corner box, this one on the left has the Marvel M, where it has the pricing and the issue number. But then this one on the right is more of that rectangular, just a block where they put the price and the issue number. This version on the right is the similar or same to what they use for the newsstand copy, but we already said this is not a newsstand copy. This is what they used on the second printing as well. So that was one of the first indicators that this copy I had originally was just a second print rather than a first print. But then the second thing, you open it up, when you look down here at the index information, normally you'd expect to see the words second printing down there at the bottom of the index, which are not visible here. But if I can show this in the video, if you look closely right down here, you can almost see, I don't know if it'll focus, you can almost see the remnants of letters of ink that was there. And you can see how the paper gets a little bit kind of wavy. It appears that somebody went and actually erased the ink to remove the evidence that this was a second printing. But I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of ink left over there. If you look closely, you can tell. So I actually discovered this on 2 of my early Transformers comics. And even though I don't remember exactly where I got them, it could be that those particular issues came from the same source, because maybe it was the same person doing that. So my original copy was a second print and not in the best condition, but now my replacement for just $1 is in fact a first print. You can see that here by the Marvel M. It's the direct edition. And when I open up this copy, nice and clean down there at the bottom of the index. No evidence of eraser marks or anything like that. So for both of those reasons, this was a great addition to my collection. It upgraded my original copy, and now I have a first print to add to my existing second print. Next up here, we've got this issue of Fantastic Four, number 354. This is part of a story that was penciled by Walt Simonson, and that's my primary reason for going back and getting this. I also just love the Fantastic Four, and if you've watched my earlier videos, you've probably heard me say that I continue to add more and more Fantastic Four issues and titles, volumes to my wish list. So I probably would have picked this up anyway, but love that Walt Simonson cover with the train. And apparently this is the first appearance of a character called Casey. I don't know if that's like Casey Jones or something, who knows, but got this for the art. And he did a couple different short runs or story arcs in this Fantastic Four Volume 1. And so I think I'm only like an issue or so away of having all of his work on this volume. This was an excellent Bronze Age find for $1. Came just as you see it, no bag, no board. This is Marvel Feature Presents Red Sonja, number 7 of 7. This is her first, I think, headlining series. She made her first and early appearances in Conan the Barbarian, but this was her first time where she was part of the title there. And this issue features Conan, so great to have this issue 7 in my collection for just $1. And I don't have any of the other 6, but of course, if I ever find those in the dollar bins, I will gladly pick those up as well. I was really excited to find these next 3 books. They are Jurassic Park. This is the comic book adaptation of the first movie. Found the first 3 issues of this 4-issue limited series. I will say I love dinosaurs overall, and I absolutely loved the Jurassic Park movies, especially this first one. The effects in that were just next level, and I can still remember going to the theater to see the first movie and just being blown away by the effects. You completely believe that those dinosaurs were real back in 1993. Can't believe we're coming up on almost 30 years since that movie came out. But I was convinced that velociraptors were going to get me. I figured I could beat the T-Rex by staying still. You know, learned my dinosaur survival skills from that movie. But I was convinced those raptors, they were definitely going to be the end of me. But it was fun to be able to find the comic book adaptation, at least the first 3 parts. And this was done by Topps, you can see. And this third one is the polybagged version, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, unopened. So nice that it's still sealed. You've got some trading cards in there. Looks like it's a T-Rex, if I can see that correctly there. Can't really shake that down real easy, but you got a Velociraptor. Is that the T-Rex? Yeah, it's T-Rex on both cards. Kind of hard to slide that apart, but that was a fun find to find 3 of those issues. Interestingly, these were written by Walt Simonson, and art is Gil Kane and George Perez. So you got an all-star creative team bringing this adaptation to us as well. So that was a great find. Then the last book I found on that first trip is this issue number 1 from World of Warcraft. Earlier this year, I saw Eric Spagnuolo post on his channel some of these issues. Never knew that Jim Lee did some of the covers, especially on the first like 6 issues or so. And because of seeing those, like it happens very often on watching his channel, I added more books to my wish list. So this was a great find to find the number 1 and to get the Jim Lee cover of this series. Here's another one where I'd never paid attention to this one in the past, but the whole series ran for like 25 issues, written by Walt Simonson as well. So there's another reason I'd like to pick these up, both for the Jim Lee variants, and then I'd ultimately like to get the entire series to read that because Walt Simonson wrote it. And I just love fantasy stuff. I never played World of Warcraft. My days of playing Warcraft were before that, so I'm dating myself a little bit, but still a fun comic book adaptation. And I don't know what the story is. I don't know what they're telling here, but it'll be fun to be able to try to find these issues as I go forward. So there's issue number 1 with a cool Jim Lee cover. So that wraps up the books I found on the first trip. Then a few weeks later, I went back after they had a chance to process more of the books, and I got a slightly larger haul. So here's the books that I got on the second trip. Starting off here, we've got this copy of Amazing Spider-Man, issue 585. This is part 2 of 4 in this story called Character Assassination. And I'm trying to go back and get this one because it was penciled by John Romita Jr. And he's got a few stories kind of spread throughout the Amazing Spider-Man volumes on top of the longer runs that he did. And I'm trying to add those to my collection as well. And similarly, there was a few stories from Amazing Spider-Man that were penciled by Chris Bacalo, so another artist, where as I see him do pencils on particular story arcs in volumes, then I'm trying to go back and collect those things. So found that 1 issue of ASM. Then I found some Fantastic Four. Here's issue 209, which looks like it was being sold for $10 at some point in the past. This is, though, from these stickers, the first John Byrne involvement with Fantastic Four, and is the first appearance of Herbie. So that's a nice kind of anchor issue to find as well, because I am working on the larger John Byrne run of Fantastic Four, and great to be able to find it for just $1. One more Fantastic Four issue that I also picked up. This is issue 32 from volume 3. And at the time it was being written by Chris Claremont, and Salvador LaRocca was doing the pencils. And so this is just another era of Fantastic Four, as I made mention of earlier, that I'm just trying to build out more and more Fantastic Four. Here we've got 1 issue from this tie-in series, part of the Secret Wars event series back in 2015. I've mentioned on numerous occasions how much I really liked that event series, and at the time I was reading several of the tie-in issues, but now still trying to go back and add some additional of those tie-in series to my collection. And this one, I got the first issue of this, or my first issue, I believe it was issue 4 of 4. I got that earlier this year just because the cover jumped out at me, and I love zombie genre stuff. So I got that, and then I found this issue 2, and we're kind of going a little bit out of order here, but in a future video, you will see that I have since then completed this limited series. So now I can check off one more limited series as complete. Here was an unexpected fun find. It's one of those types of books that, well, there's lots of books like this where you don't have it on your wish list. Maybe you've seen it before, maybe you haven't, but you've never really paid it any mind, and then you come across it and it just kind of grabs your attention. I like this one for a couple of reasons. One, it's a holiday issue, and holiday themed issues are always fun to me, but it's one of these square bound issues that Marvel did a lot of in the 90s. Their annuals were more like this. They had their summer specials. This is a holiday special, and so that was appealing to me as well, and had a nostalgic kind of feel to it for me. It's got a great wraparound cover by Art Adams, which is kind of cool as well. Another great artist that I like to collect his stuff when I see it. And this one turns out to be a minor key as well. It's in this issue that we get the backstory that Santa Claus, in fact, is an Omega level mutant. So that comes up in this first story here. Basically, the context is the X-Men are decorating, and then they get Cerebro's detecting a mutant, and it says here that it's tracked the most powerful mutant ever registered, so that would make it an Omega level mutant. And then they go looking for this mutant, and they wind up in a fight with Blob and Mastermind and some other folks here. And then when that gets resolved, they're talking to Santa and asking if he's seen any kind of powerful mutant, and he says, choosing sides, not likely, but when you find this person, when you find what you're looking for, it'll be right under your nose. And then he zaps them away, wipes their memories of the entire incident, and he was in fact the mutant that they were looking for. So that's pretty cool. Minor key because of that Santa's an Omega level mutant, and yeah, just a fun find. And this one too was raw like it is. It's got a little bit of wavy kind of effect going on up here, some damage, but just a fun pickup. Another raw book that I found is this copy of Marvel Age number 44. I loved this title when it was coming out and have several of the issues that I bought new off the stand, but now I'm trying to go back and piece together, some of the issues that have covers primarily that have stuck with me and that I want to add to my collection. This one, of course, is one of the 25th anniversary kind of border covers, so I was happy to find it for that reason. This cover featuring, I think that's Starbrand, right, from the new universe, but every time I see this, I always think it's He-Man. It's just what he makes me think of when I see that cover, but that is not, in fact, He-Man. Another thing I discovered, fun reason to pick this up after I got it, is that in here, in addition to some really cool X-Men articles, it's got a cool Transformers article that talks about some of the upcoming tie-in series that they're working on as they expand that Transformers universe. And I love me some Transformers, like you heard me say earlier. So that was a nice bonus for picking up this Marvel Age issue. Oh, look at that. It's a wraparound. There's his back, there's his front. They even wrote the letters backwards there. That's a clever little cover. Never noticed that before. Look what I found on my second trip to Gamerz Island. I think I saw this the first time around, but I bought a different cover the first time, And when I added them to my CLZ app, I saw these other covers, and I think this, in fact, is the A cover, whereas the one you saw earlier, this guy here, I think this is like the B cover. But another reason that I got it is that this one is another version that's in the poly bag, and that is still sealed. So you got some more trading cards still locked up nice and tight in there. But great to be able to pick up a second copy of issue number 2 for my collection, and the polybagged version at that. Look what else I found on this return trip. First time around, I found issue number 1. Second time around, I found issue 25, which is the last issue of this volume. Reminder, Walt Simonson, and I think Louise Simonson also wrote with him on this. So it was a joint effort by those two on the writing duties. That's a cool cover, not a Jim Lee cover, but like I said before, I like the fantasy genre, and I like this franchise, so that'll just be a fun volume to try to work on. But we'll chip out it away, you know, from the bookends in if we have to. Here was a fun find, Conan the Barbarian issue number 100. This is a double-sized issue. You can see here, I don't collect Conan the Barbarian overall. There have been some of the issues from this first volume that I'd like to find. At least Jim Lee did a cover, and then there may have been a couple artists, maybe Todd McFarlane and some others that did some covers later on in the volume. So there's some of those that I'd like to get, but then this one just happened to be there, wasn't looking for it. The cover jumped out at me, so I like that. And spoiler alert, right there on the cover, we've got the death on the Black Coast, the death of, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Is it Belit? But she dies in that issue, so it's a key from that perspective. So another reason that it was a good find for just $1, but happy to add that one. And then just 2 more books to show you today. And these were fun finds just because they're older. The first one is this copy of Detective Comics number 460. This is a 30-cent cover price. This is from what, 1970 what? Is this 76? I'm just completely guessing. This is a minor key too, first appearance of somebody. Yeah, 1976. And so you've got a nice older copy of Detective Comics. And I do like Batman, so it's fun to pick up those Bronze Age books when they're cheap like that. And it's in decent shape, so that's pretty good, a good find. And then the last one is actually a Silver Age book. Found a copy of Action Comics number 370, and got that one solely because of the age. And this one, slide it out here gently. It's got some writing on the back, so you got Pam Olsen Hazel written on the back there, and Hawaii for some reason. But then it's a 12-cent copy, and I don't know about you, but anytime I see 12 cents in the dollar bins, I'm definitely going to give it a hard look before I decide whether or not to pass on that. But here it is from 1968, Action Comics number 370. So that was just too good to pass up for that age of a book. So very happy to find that book. Oh, you know what? There is one more book that I found for $1, and I forgot to include it in this pile. Let me grab it and I'll show you. It's even older than this one. Here you have it. This is Archie Comics number 149, a 12-cent Archie. I don't collect Archie. This is not a key. These aren't particularly valuable even, but it was in such nice condition, and it is, I should say, the oldest comic book I own, and so I was glad to pick this up for just $1. Let me pull it out here for you. But it's in really nice shape, considering that this is from 1964. Obviously, there are some spine ticks here, and Not surprisingly, these comics were very well loved and read by kids back in the day. So the fact that they're surviving and in this kind of condition is really, really nice to find. I looked up on mycomicshop.com, for example, some of these older Archies like this that are not keys, and I see a lot of the issues that they have available. I mean, they're only like $8 to $10, but the condition or the grades that they're listing there are like 2.0, 3.0, so they're very low grade, and this is definitely higher grade than that, because it's got really nice color. It's just a really nice color maintained on the cover, still nice gloss. The only thing that really detracts is that there's several spine ticks, but the corners look pretty good as well. So I was very, very happy to find that, and definitely not going to leave that one behind, because there's a part of me that's collects titles because I want to read them, but then there's others because I'm a comic book collector. I just love comic books, and so you see an old one like this that's in decent shape and it's only $1, then of course I'm gonna pick it up and hold on to it at least for a while and enjoy that, just because it's a fun piece of comic book history. So that's the last book I've got from Gamerz Island, from these 2 trips down to that store. All right, that's going to do it for me, and that's going to wrap up this 2-trip haul from Gamerz Island in Hastings, Minnesota. Once again, if you want to check out the store, I've got links to their information down below, but let me know about you. How have things been going on your own comic book adventures recently? Tell me the kinds of things that you've been finding down in the comments. Now, if you're not quite ready for the YouTube fun to stop, I have hand-selected a couple videos here for you to check out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.